and welcome to my channel where I talk about movies. The movie I want to talk about today comes from 1960. This is The Innocents, and this is starring Deborah Kerr, directed by Jack Clayton, and based on one of Henry James's ghost stories, The Turn of the Screw, which has been filmed many times. Henry James had a very unique sensibility, very unique style that I'm sure to contemporary audiences would seem dense, and he doesn't get on with it, but with the story. But The Turn of the Screw is still very readable, and he was, and he, despite his very unique sensibility and his style, he does provide some chills. And the horror here is as much psychological as anything else, and he's very much attuned to ambiguities, especially the ambiguities of human behavior, the mystery of how people develop. So his short story begins with a Christmas Eve ghost-telling get-together. And one of the gentlemen there says that he has a really good one, but if you come back tomorrow, I'll tell it to you, because I actually have a written account. This is supposedly actually happened, the story that he's going to be telling them, which is the story of The Turn of the Screw. And then the film opens with a scene with the uncle who has has a niece and nephew who have been orphaned. He wants nothing. He's very rich, amazingly rich, when you see where his country estate is. And but he wants nothing to do with the upbringing of these children. He's willing to give them every other financial support, but he wants nothing to do when they're 12 and 10, a boy and a girl. Miles and Flora, and he needs a governess who's also going to run the whole household. And when Miss Giddens, the character played by Deborah Kerr, arrives, she cannot believe the extent of power which she now has over such an amazing estate. So, and Miss Giddens in the story, she's only 20 years old, and so very inexperienced. You wonder, why would a man give such authority to such a young person? Deborah Kerr was almost 40, so it actually works kind of better because she would have more experience in life. But in actuality, she has very little experiences at all, as she is. Grew up her father was a curate. He grew up in a parsonage, and now she is being given this wondrous estate to overlook in this amazing mansion, and also two children who, though on the surface appear very well behaved, they're peculiar to be sure, but they immediately take the Miss Giddens. And but there's something below the surface of innocence, and which Miss Giddens discovers. And in the past, there has been and the overseer of the household was Peter Quint, who had one time been the valet to Michael Redgrave, who was playing the uncle, and he dies very mysteriously. And the previous governess also has died, and Miss Giddens learns about their debauched behavior. So the film, from the housekeeper, this is basically a four-character drama taken from a stage play version of The Turn of the Screw. So we get this gigantic house. Miss Giddens has grown up in relative isolation in a very small house, and now she is disoriented, and understandably so. And given so much power, She loves children, she says, but once she hears about the debauched behavior of Peter Quint and Miss Jessel, that she believes the children have been infected by it because they were close companions of that couple, and some of their evil has rubbed off on these children, especially the boy, Miles, and now she wants to save the children. It's almost like she believes they've been possessed, and she is going to have a sort of exorcism. She's going to drive these evil spirits out of these seemingly normal children, innocence. This was a big theme in Henry James. What is innocence? In Victorian days, children were seen as innocents, and Henry James was definitely challenging that notion, especially here. So the children are played by Pamela Franklin. She plays Flora. This is her first movie. She would go on to have another career, a subsequent career in movies. And Miles was played by Martin Stevens, who had already played in The Village of the Damned, very memorably. He's blonde in Village of the Damned. He gives just an astonishing performance. He becomes the master of the house. And there are elements in his relationship with Miss Giddens where he almost seems to be that he is trying to seduce her. The evil of Peter Quint is there, at least as we see it through Miss Giddens' eyes. He has been expelled from school because because of the way he talks to the other boys, seemingly having been influenced by the evil of Peter Quint. So this was a stage play. John Mortimer worked on the screenplay. There's another, I can't remember the top credit in the screenplay by credit, and then it says Truman Capote. According to Jack Clayton, this is 90% of this movie the screenplay is by Truman Capote, who adds a kind of Southern Gothic atmosphere to it. And there's kind of like a hothouse. There's sweating. There's insects. There's birds. There's statuary with insects climbing out of the mouths of statues, and he's particularly good at writing these parts with these children who are absolutely superb, as I said before. John Mortimer also worked on the screenplay a little bit to get the flow better. Jack Clayton and his cinematographer, Freddie Francis, were forced to use widescreen black and white cinematography. Now, Clayton wanted the film to be in black and white. He did not want the widescreen. But I would say that The Innocents is probably as well photographed, the widescreen black and white movie as you're ever going to see. This movie looks absolutely fantastic. This is a Blu-ray, not a 4K. So atmospheric. The appearances of the ghosts. How were they going to do this? Make the ghost visible, at least to Miss Giddens, without going over into sort of Hammer horror, and being faithful to the more nuanced vision of Henry James, and it just plays so well. Here's Miles, Martin Stevens, and one of his rather enigmatic, puzzling expressions. The widescreen is sometimes framed, and there's a extra with cinematographer John Bailey, who explains how because Clayton didn't know how to fill up the widescreen, or at least he wasn't confident that he would be able to put enough information, which is what 20th Century Fox always told their directors and their cinematographers and designers: we want the image full. So they almost had like a tunnel vision in some of the scenes. Later on, Clayton started to enjoy the widescreen frame, but it is very effectively used in creating a very eerie atmosphere. So even though we We have a vast mansion. The interiors were filmed on stage, and vast surroundings, parks and lakes surrounding it. There's always an element of confinement here. Now, the film did not get positive reaction. It got mostly negative reviews. The New York Times was certainly negative. It didn't do great business, but over the years it's become a cult film. And of all the interpretations and variations, adaptations, I think this one still is standing the test of time. And also, in these extras, there is a commentary by Michael Frayling, and it is superb. He knew many of the participants of this film, which is not really, this is a film of superb craftsmanship, and of course also a very intense, very mysterious performance by Deborah Kerr, who felt that this was her best performance in the movies. Okay, thanks a lot for everybody who managed to listen. I do appreciate it. Comments are welcome. Take care.